Welcome everyone to Prime and Load. As always, my name is Lee Gugino, and we have our two doctors, Dr. Andrew Bamford and Alex Burns. And for this episode, we've added another doctor, Dr. John Bradstreet Weaver, longtime friend of the podcast. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. And so this is the result of our top commanders bracket. We're down to our final four. What do you guys think of how this has gone? Jack, you've got an outsider's perspective.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of proceeded in the way I thought it might. There's a couple of sort of figures that I was hoping would get a little bit further. I was hoping Nader Pasha would get a little bit further, but when you're going up against Prince Eugen, it's hard. That's a tough matchup. And then I was rooting for Peter the Great over Frederick. I think he had such a huge impact. I mean, Prussia doesn't exist anymore, and Russia still does. So there's, I think, a good case to be made for Peter as a better commander with a longer legacy than Frederick.
That's a good point.
And I'll respond with boo, wrong. No, just kidding. So Jack, in terms of what was the big controversial last time? It was von Braun versus von Braun and Marlborough. Are you, as a Habsburg aligned individual, do you think that the good man won in the end there with the Duke of Marlborough winning that matchup, or do you like von Braun? What do you think?
Yeah, I do think Marlborough certainly deserves the title better than von Braun.
Okay, all right.
I mean, the Habsburgs have to be happy. We've got Prince Eugen in the final four, so it's.
I love the idea of like the Habsburgs have to be happy. Like there are modern members of the Habsburg family like listening to the podcast. I'm going to choose to believe that. That will be my headcanon for what's going on here.
You're all on Twitter, and Edward Habsburg has a reasonably big following.
He does. Yeah.
All right, so going into the results for this final four, we've got our first matchup. Eugene of Savoy versus Frederick the Great. This is a big one. And the winner is going to be Frederick.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. Someone bought votes for the commander of their choice.
Yes. In this round, we had someone buy votes for their commanders. And in this case, it just kind of solidified Frederick's win. Eugene did get a few, got some love, but again, if you want to, moving into this next round, want to buy a few extra votes for your favorite commander, buy me a coffee. Every dollar you spend, or pound, or whatever currency, the number of that is the amount of points you get, and you can bolster the chance of your favorite commander. The link for that will be in the description below. And now, for our next matchup, John Churchill versus Maurice de Saxe. And the winner is John Churchill.
Oh,
so I'm sorry, okay. Andrew.
I was rooting for. I'm a de Saxe guy, but if it's de Saxe against Marlborough, then no, Marlborough all the way, absolutely.
Yeah, it feels like it's almost slaughtering your darlings a little bit on that one, unfortunately for you.
Okay, so the final matchup then is Frederick versus Marlborough.
The final matchup is Frederick versus John Churchill, Duke of Marlborough. Yes.
Jack, thoughts?
In any kind of competition where people are voting, I do think name recognition plays a big role. And I think with Frederick's victory over Prince Eugen, that's certainly, Frederick had that in his favor. As far as the Duke of Marlborough and Frederick, I think, at least for perhaps the American audience, Frederick's probably more well known. But they're certainly both great generals, and it could be neck and neck. I don't know. I don't think I could say which one was better.
So I would agree with that, but also George Washington lost round one, so it feels like name recognition helps. Okay, is it possible that all of our podcast listeners are Englishmen and they don't like Washington and they like the Duke of Marlborough? I think that could be key coming into this final round.
Yeah. Yeah, and Hyder Ali got pretty far too, and he doesn't have the benefit of name recognition. That's for sure.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, any predictions, Andrew?
Well, Marlborough, obviously. I've been rooting for him from the get-go.
Yeah, you have. Okay.
No, I mean, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because Frederick, if we're going basic metrics, Frederick won more battles than Marlborough.
Yeah.
But then again, Marlborough never lost a battle.
Right.
Nor did Marlborough run away having a hissy fit halfway through a battle that wasn't going very well. So Frederick has got the marks against to set against the many marks in favour. So do you go for a perfect record on a smaller sample of results, or do you go for a mixed record that also includes some incredible victories? It's a question of how you balance. Does Luyton balance out curling?
I'm sure there's some history-minded mathematician who has found some formula out there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's true. And the answer is Napoleon is the greatest general mathematically in all of history. But like that's the trouble with doing math and history. It's still sort of perspective based rather than being like pure science. Yeah. And so it's what data you include in the set.
Well, I mean, really, the most foolproof way is ask your podcast audience.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And hopefully they will be podcast listeners with deep pockets who will vote for their favorite general with their dollars or pounds. We are not picky. So I would say that Marlborough probably never lost a battle, but he also probably wasn't surrounded by a giant coalition of enemy nations in the 7 Years' War either. So Frederick has to both be head of state and also a field commander, and he does all this facing odds that, I mean, there, admittedly, as an Englishman, you probably look across the field and think, man, there are a lot of French over there. But, these are really astounding odds, and Frederick does triumph. And also, can I just say, Frederick ends the war still in field command as opposed to sort of, coming home to Britain. Right? So there are ways you could construe it in which Frederick would be an equally valid vote up there with Marlborough.
Marlborough, he's not a head of state, but he does have something of a political legacy. There is a book that came out, a little over 10 years ago, called Marlborough's America, and that the argument it makes is that some of the most successful governors in colonial North America in the first half of the 18th century were sort of students of Marlborough. They're people he had sort of either personally known or mentored in some way. Most notably, Governor Alexander Spotswood of Virginia, who's absolutely critical in defeating and destroying piracy in the 17 teens and 20s.
So you go. You don't like pirates? Vote for Marlborough.
There you go.
I mean, the thing I was going to say as well, I mean, Alex, I take your point entirely about Frederick having a war against half of Europe and Marlborough having a war with half of Europe on his side. How much of that is the relative diplomatic skills of the two commanders? I mean, Frederick wasn't great at keeping his allies on side, played a bit fast and loose with the system. Marlborough helped build, I mean, I've already said several times as we've gone through, William III built and Marlborough sustained a coalition against Louis XIV. So, you sort of say, Frederick was fighting half of Europe. Well, poor Frederick, he was being picked on, but Frederick had annoyed quite a lot of Europe, and there was a reason why they were fighting him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it sort of all comes down to how you interpret it. But I suppose there are two things that I consider. One, my War of Spanish Succession history is a little hazy, but I think the Bourbon family does end up taking the throne of Spain. Second, and I'll sort of prep for this, only one of these commanders has the great after their names. There's a mic drop there. Wow. Okay, so in all seriousness,
if you have to build yourself up with a fancy nickname, I mean, if that's all you've got.
Yeah. Also, okay. So one of these loves is clearly motivated by a patriotic sense of nationalism. That can be a beautiful thing. That's good. That's good. It's good to have a favorite general. I think probably for much of the 20th century, we look at Marlborough and he says he has a more positive legacy in the modern world than Frederick does, right? I mean, if you look at the long legacy of these two figures, I mean, Germany's united, and there's a school of historiography in the 20th century that says, German unification goes all the way back, and like maybe authoritarian strands in German history go back to the 18th century in Prussia. I mean, I think there are ways that you could choose Frederick or choose Marlborough.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I'm talking up my guy, but no, absolutely. The either would be a worthy winner.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to see how our audience votes. And just like our last round, this is going to be an all email ballot. So again, if you've participated with us through any of the opening rounds, you'll be emailed a ballot. And then if you are interested in getting your votes in anyway, if you're coming in late to this and you really have strong opinions one way or the other, anyone can buy more votes at Buy Me a Coffee. And remember, $1, pound, whatever equals one vote. And we will get in contact with you and see who your votes are going to land under. There's a link in the description. Click that link. You can buy more votes, just like buying more commissions.
That's it for this episode of Prime and Load. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter with a link in the description. It's the best way to stay up to date on the show, see what's coming up next, and ask us questions. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, formerly known as X. This episode was hosted by Drs. Alexander Burns and Andrew Bamford. It was produced by Lee Gugino, music by Brianna Tam, Artie Sun, and Adrian Berenegger. Prime and Load is a Historic Studios podcast.